Hi, I'm Mark Westcott, once again, for our regular weekly catch-up and topics in regard to estate, legacy planning and business succession planning. Welcome Peter McKnoulty, who's a consultant with McKnoulty. Pete, one of the, I guess it's kind of like my mantra I use when I'm talking to clients and doing presentation to groups and so on, in regard to estate and business succession planning, is that probably one of the key things is to ensure, one, certainty, confidence and security for those that are left behind if something was to go wrong. But secondly, that to ensure that if you're doing the right thing for your family, you make sure that the right money goes to the right people at the right time. Now that sounds easy, but obviously it's not so easy. So how do you make sure that happens when you're helping people with their estate planning?
Okay, look, you're right, Mark. That's a very nice way to summarise a fairly complex issue such as estate planning, and that is right money, right hands at the right time. Well, the right money will assume, with the advice of people like Mark, the clients will have the money, and then it's a question of understanding the right hands and the right time. And let me handle the second of those first, the issue of timing. It's a question of when funds might pass to the next generation and to be under the control of the next generation. And it's a real challenge to get that right. We don't want the funds going too young nor too old, and I've had situations at either end. I've actually had some clients who wanted to hold funds in trust until their children were 55. Now,
I can understand why.
Yeah, that's right. Some of them might need it that way, but you know, that's the absurd end. But the other end, I've had a situation where it was actually an intestacy situation where a young fella got an inheritance at 18, bought a new car. Within 14 hours he'd wrapped that car around a pole doing drag racing, and he's not with us anymore. So we need to be very careful about getting the timing right. So that's a question of when, and you know, 25 is probably a good gauge, but again it's something you need to have a look at. It may be that 25 a child's fresh into a new and potentially unstable relationship, so that may not be right either.
So 50% chance.
Yeah, that's right, 50% as we said earlier. Yeah, that's right. And so then the right hands and sort of the control of the funds is something that also is important to understand, because when you're looking at your will, you need to understand that an individual owns their assets and they also have control of what's in their superannuation, but they don't actually own the assets in their companies and trusts. So you can't actually leave assets in your trust to anyone because they're not your assets to deal with. So what you need to do there is look at control of those assets, and that's through control of the trust, either by personal trustees or by a company. If you've got a corporate trustee, the directors of that company make the decisions about who's going to receive what, and just about management of the trust ongoing. And so it's important that you deal with the shares in the company in a way which is going to provide the right level of protection. So you decide if the children are going to have control of the trust fund together, ensure that they have control of the shares, and there are mechanisms to make sure that they all have a say and that two can't gang up against one and that sort of thing. But it's important just to understand that not always are we dealing with the assets, we might be dealing with control of those assets.
Okay, thanks Pete. Look forward to next week.
My pleasure.